Good. It even gave me a little notification.
There you go. Well, Scott, I appreciate it, brother, for you making a little bit of time for a little chit chat this morning.
Yeah, I love talking about CrossFit. It's my favorite thing to talk about, to be honest with you.
Just driving
CrossFit,
people
fitness,
crazy
all of
talking
it.
about it all the time, huh?
Yeah, my wife probably gets annoyed with me. That's my main topic of conversation.
You've probably been responsible for some converts over the years, whether they wanted to
Oh
or
yeah,
warm
for
down.
sure. Most of my family, if not all of it. I mean, I met my wife at CrossFit, so it's funny because my brother is the first one I remember that told me about CrossFit, but this was like years and years ago. And then over the years, as I was in it, I kind of like drew him into it. And then
Gotcha.
my parents got into it, and I'm sure many other people that I know I've
So your
stopped
brother
the two
told you about
words.
it, but wasn't doing it at the time, and then you actually got him into it, even though he told you about it.
Yeah, I remember he like told me there were some guys at the college he was going to, and I didn't know anything about it. And I don't think I did anything with it for a while. And then over time, as I got more and more overweight, like I looked into it and it seemed kind of cool. And then as I did it more and got in better shape, he was a little more interested. And then so I brought him to where I was going, and then yeah,
Gotcha.
it's been
Okay.
fun.
And in getting ready for this interview, you originally told me that it was around 2010 that
Mhm.
you first dipped your toe into the water of CrossFit. I
Yeah,
mean, so that's 14 or 15 years ago.
it's
That
been a
was
while. Yeah.
quite a ways ago. And CrossFit definitely had some traction then, but not, it was still relatively in its infancy, all things
Yeah.
considered. What were you working out at the time? What was going on in your life with your fitness journey that in 2010?
Yeah, 2010, like I had just graduated college that summer. And so I got into CrossFit. I remember going to a gym. It was summertime because it was nice out and I live in Cleveland. And so like it's very distinct seasons.
Right,
And I remember I walked up to a gym and I didn't know at the time that like CrossFit gyms have hours and there are class times. I was just like,
right.
so I was, in the forever fitness realm of like show up when you want. And I went and it was dark and nobody was there. And I was like, what, like this doesn't seem like a gym I've ever been to. And so I
Hmm.
walked away and left because there were no hours on the door or anything like that. And I don't remember the time between when I went there and then actually joined a gym, but I just like I looked it up on the website and went and talked to the guy and I was like, yeah, this sounds like a fun time. But it wasn't like I went with my brother or went with anybody. Like I feel like I might be a little more unusual and that like I just went by myself
Mm.
and that was it. And I had been doing the typical, like I said, forever fitness, Globo gym, that kind of stuff. And
So you were working out.
oh yeah, I mean I was I think I said in my email like I was a very like average athlete. Like I had always worked out in high school and stuff and had been like taught how to do things, whether
Mhm.
it's deadlifts, bench, squat, that kind of stuff. But I have a very vivid memory of in like my freshman year, I think they were trying to teach me a push press, and I was like holding the bar like down here.
Sure.
And there was no semblance of a front rack. And I like tried to dip, and everybody that does you're gonna come down here. And so it wasn't a very clean movement. But so I had always like known how to work out, but
Well, at least you were squatting and deadlifting. I mean,
true.
that gives you a leg up on a lot of, US citizens, to be quite
Yeah,
honest.
very true. I think we had to, high school football, like they pretty much make you, and they've got the leaderboard up on the wall, and everybody's chasing that one freak kid that could squat 500 pounds when he was in
Right.
grade or whatever he was, you know.
I think
So
that's
yeah, I
the
mean that
the
was
thing too. The freak athletes always just throw up the whole bell. They throw off the whole bell curve.
I mean there's always at least one kid that, he had like a 600-pound deadlift and he was 17 years old, or I mean now it's not that uncommon, but back then, I mean, and these kids, these teenagers these days are wild, but I mean,
One
those high school.
100%. You said that back in 2010 also you were the heaviest that you've ever been. You don't look heavy right now. How tall are you?
I am about 5'10".
5'10". Okay, so you said back in 2010 you weighed 250.
Yeah, I was just under 250, which is
Wow, I'm not
yeah.
super tall. I'm 5'8". You get a couple inches on me, but I couldn't imagine being my height and being 250. I don't think that would be a fun way to go through life.
Yeah, it wasn't.
What got you to 250 if you were athletic in high school and whatnot?
I was just, like I said, I was right out of college, 2010. I graduated that summer, and we're still like in the college atmosphere, like, hanging out with friends. We'd go out all the time. Didn't know a thing about nutrition. Like I would eat chicken and vegetables, but also pizza and whatever else I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started my job, so I was a little more sedentary than I had been. And we had a scale in our warehouse that I would just like occasionally step on. And I just have this memory of the one day I stepped on it and it read like 246. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like,
Mm,
what's happening here? Like I was always a big guy. Like I was never skinny. I was just always kind of hefty. Like I was that kid in like basketball when you're little that was just like, you go stand on the block and grab the ball when it comes to you.
right,
I
right.
was just always that kid. And I was okay with it. But then as I got to that, I would see pictures and I see them now and I'll maybe post a couple when you post this in the Facebook group. I'm but I mean it's just like how did I get that far? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there's a lot of people that are that way.
Oh,
I was
sure.
lucky enough to see it, but it's like how did I let this happen? And why didn't I see it?
Well, I think it's that slow drip, right? I mean, you don't go from 180 to 250 in a month.
Yeah.
It's a week followed by another week. That's a half pound here, followed by another week, followed by a month, followed by all of a sudden a few years go by.
Yeah, and not really
And
paying attention to, not ever getting on a scale or,
right, right.
or being
But
active. And I mean, all those pounds, like I mean, obviously, 20 pounds in this realm, like makes everything so much harder. But if,
sure.
but if you're just going to, Forever Fitness and you're doing your bench and your deads and whatever, like, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, but I got to give you also some credit, and I'm curious as to what did this for you because, you know, our country is full of people, and I don't want to speak for the world, but I'll feel free to speak for our country, that find themselves in that spot, and then it just seems so overwhelming to change. And like, oh,
Yeah.
like the ship has capsized. Like I'm not even going to try to write it, so just screw it. I guess this is what life is like every now and then.
Yeah.
But then there are some unique individuals that changing your entire lifestyle and how you eat is a miserable, uncomfortable process full of tons of discipline. So it's unique to choose that route. What did you step on the scale that day and something clicked, or did it take several months later before you started to turn the tide?
I don't remember the exact timeline, but like I remember seeing that number and I was just like, no, like
Mm,
this can't happen anymore. And then I don't know where it came between there and I went to CrossFit, but then as I got into CrossFit, obviously like being overweight didn't help anything.
hmm
And then I remember the conversation I had with my coach about like the zone diet. And like that to me was where things like started to make sense because I had never like even considered like weighing or measuring a thing ever.
Right.
Like here's your chicken breast, and that was it. And then it was almost like a game, like you get a five block meal, and I was like, okay, cool. Like how can I make this fun? It would
Yeah,
be like
yeah.
make chicken quesadillas with cheese and salsa and that kind of stuff. And so to me, like gamifying it like really made it more interesting. And just in general, CrossFit workouts, obviously, like everybody knows, are so much more entertaining while miserable. It's better than
Right.
going and spending all that time just not really doing a whole lot or a half hour on the treadmill.
Well, and I think that's a unique, almost sneaky way that CrossFit can help spark a conversation about nutrition, right?
Mhm.
Because sometimes if you just bring up nutrition to somebody that's overweight, that doesn't go well.
Yeah,
But makes the person
it's
defensive,
very
they don't hear it, they
recommended.
shut down. But if you are now immersed in a fitness program that you can be overweight and just squat and deadlift all the time and not have it be that troublesome. But
Mhm.
if suddenly you're going to be doing or asked to do box jumps and burpees and pull-ups and 800-meter repeats and all these things, you're like, oh, this extra weight sucks.
Yeah.
I'm finally like aware of it in a way that I've never been aware of it before. And so I think that's one of the beautiful and sneaky ways that helps broach the nutrition conversation that can be so prickly. Um, if it's not brought up the right way, it's because it's
Yeah.
tough not to shut people down. In the zone, and the zone's cool and old school because the zone was all the rage for a while, and love it or hate it, like the zone works.
It 100% works. It worked for
And these
me
days
for
it's
a
all
long
like
time.
counting macros, but that's really all the zone is, quite
Yeah.
frankly. It's just a
Yeah.
system of measurement.
Yeah. I mean, it worked from, I remember I did that for 6 months at minimum, maybe more, and like gone back and forth. And between that and when I started, I only did like 3 days a week. And
Hmm.
sometimes it wasn't even 3 days a week. I remember I did a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule.
Oh, that's cool.
And there were frequent Saturdays where I didn't show up because Friday had been a little bit long. And so
Yep.
like there was a lot, and I was still like going to the other gym and had, it was $20 a month, so whatever. And I
Yep.
would go, but again, like wasn't doing a ton of good there. But for a very long time, it was 3 days a week and just eating better, not even good. I'm sure I wasn't eating wonderfully and all the meats and vegetables. I'm sure there was pizzas and tacos and other things thrown in, but
Sure.
3 days a week works. And I wish I could get that to more people and understand like you don't have to spend 5, 6, 7 days a week doing running on every day. Like just go hit it hard for, a half hour to 45 minutes and eat better.
There it
That would
is.
be perfect.
It, yes. You can get so much out of three well-structured workouts a week if your nutrition is somewhat under control.
Mhm.
If you're
Yeah.
eating, as I like to say like a drunken pirate,
My favorite thing that you say. I love it's
it's
true.
it's not, you just can't. 30 minutes of gym isn't going to outdo 23 and a half hours of terrible nutrition
Yeah.
decisions every single day of the week. It just ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just
And
a landslide, but you somehow stuck with it. I'm always interested how, because people that get into that weighing and measuring, some people it treats them well, other people it makes them neurotic, other people it makes food a miserable experience. And some people have the ability to just use it as a tool. When the tool's not needed, I put it on a shelf. I break it back out again if needed. Like, what was your transition like? I mean, are you still weighing and measuring to this day? Like, what's the journey that you actually keeping the weight off for years? Because that's also, it's unique to start,
mhm.
and then it's unique to actually be long-term successful.
Yeah. So I still weigh and measure to a point. I mostly just weigh out protein because I feel like if I don't, I'll just miss the mark. Um, but other than that, like I don't weigh a lot of other things. I think what just kept me on it, I mean, it's fun to see progress. Like if nothing else, I think it's just addicting to see those changes.
Hmm.
And I've gone in like steps. So there was a long time. So I went from, like the 250 mark. 6 months later, I think I was about 220. I think maybe a year, 18 months from when I started, I was about up 200, give or take. And then I was around that 200 mark for a very long time with you. It was zone and then it was paleo. It was like paleo zone. I feel like it's a very typical thing for people.
Hmm.
And then I was around that 200 mark for a very long time. And then, like within the past, like I think 2018, I got a little more serious with macros. I think that's kind of when it really kicked in. And so, like, I got to the lightest I had ever been 2018, 19, which was like 173. And that's the lowest I've ever been since I got there the first time going up.
And was
Uh,
that too light? Because you can also be too light.
no, it wasn't. I felt
Okay.
really good and I'd love to get back there, but that was like, that's like counting everything. And I don't know
Right.
about that. I mean, and that's the thing is like you saying you can be neurotic about it and take it too far.
Gotta
And
live
for
your
some
life.
people that's good. But, I'm not getting on stage anytime soon. I'm not going to compete anywhere special.
Hmm.
And just being that 5, 10 pounds lighter makes such a difference. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
wild. Everything feels better. And I mean, even just running, walking the dogs, all that good stuff. Body weight movements feel wonderful. Handstand push-ups are still terrible, but
Were you tracking, or, you know, I guess, was this weight just obviously cool on your own, but, did you do an annual checkup with a physician that, saw this progress as well?
no, and I think I don't even know if we have a doctor anymore. We haven't, I
Understandable.
guess we don't need one. Like, it's kind of a point of pride that we're just like, yeah, I feel pretty good and I'm healthy and I don't need to go there. Maybe
Right.
some
We're kind
blood
of in
work
the
every
same
once in a
boat.
while. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, until you need it and then maybe not, but you did
You'll
a,
okay. If it's an emergency, you'll figure it out.
yeah, right. That's why they have ERs. We did like a bod pod thing one time, and that was kind of a cool thing to see. It did like your resting metabolic rate and like body
Mm.
fat percentage. That was pretty cool, and it was just fun to know that. But other than that, it's just been like scale mirror to see how
Let's
things
do a
are
real
going.
world thing right now. What'd you have for breakfast?
I've been on a very big kick lately of I do Greek yogurt mixed with like a casein protein, and it kind of
Okay.
makes like a frosting, and then I microwave some berries and throw the berries in it. And it's my
Sounds good.
favorite thing. I could eat it all day, but I mean, it's sweet because of the berries. It's low fat, super high protein. That's like the one thing that I will measure like on a daily basis, just because I feel like, a tablespoon of peanut butter is never a tablespoon of peanut butter. I feel
Amen
like
to that.
similar with like yogurt. I'd be like, well, this is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like breakfast daily. And my wife like has started to like jab at me. She goes, "Oh, time to make the yogurt," because I'll be on the phone with her. She's driving. I'm like mixing yogurt in a bowl real fast. And then like I think other meals, I found these little like dollar bags of vegetables at Aldi. I don't know if you have Aldi out there, but
Okay.
they're like $1.09 and 5 minutes in the microwave, throw some chicken on it, lunch and dinner.
Oh,
It's
that's cool.
I love it.
I mean, I'm kind of the same way. If I find something that's tasty, I can eat it over and over again
Yeah.
for quite a period of time. And it's also a great indication that you're eating, I think anyway, that you're eating well, generally speaking, if you
Mhm.
say something like, oh, it's so sweet because of the berries.
Yeah.
Because if you are living in a life of Mountain Dew, Dairy Cream Blizzards, Snickers bars, and things like that, berries don't seem sweet.
Right.
They
Yeah.
at all. They don't just give you that kick like you because you're so just peaked out from these other sugars. But once those are gone from your body, you're like, oh, this apple's really sweet.
Yeah. And that's the other, I
And
eat
if
so
you're
many
not
apples and I,
experiencing that, you might want to take a look at things.
yeah, and I think maybe over time I've like tricked myself into not liking sugar. I don't know how that happened, but I mean, like anything that's super sweet, I can't do it.
Hmm.
Or like, don't get me wrong, I love cookies and cakes and I'll eat them all day if they're there, but it's never a thing that I've like sought out, at least not in the past 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. And I don't know
Okay.
where it came from for me, but
If
I like more bitter things. Like I'll eat dark chocolate, but like
okay.
super high content, whatever that is, like
Right, right.
content stuff.
If you were to have a cookie, what would be high on the list?
Oh, oatmeal raisin for sure. They're good. All day long.
Those are
Oatmeal raisin
dangerous.
with maybe a couple walnuts in there.
Those
Yeah,
are dangerous. Yeah. Hey, you got to carve up every now and then.
for sure.
So you said, when you gave me a bit of information about your backstory that, you're the sort of person once you get into something, you were all in. And you got
Mhm.
into CrossFit, it was immersing yourself in the old journal articles and videos and just totally geeking out on it. And I can
Yeah,
really um, resonate with that 100%. And you said it eventually led you to opening up your own gym. So tell me about that.
we did. So yeah, I've got all the old journal articles. I loved it. Did my L1, did my L2 after we opened the gym. So the gym spawned from the gym we were at previously closed. The owner just didn't want to do it anymore. And we had the opportunity between my brother and I and my parents to purchase the equipment. And one of the members that was there at the time that was going to move with us owned a series of warehouses that was just a little bit across town. And we all just kind of sat down and talked. And he's like, "This one is open right as this one's closing. I need someone to go in there." And it was just very bam, 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 bam. The one closed in the end of November and we opened January 2. And
Okay.
it was just a whirlwind of an end of a year. And we spent, luckily it was warm that winter. So we were, washing walls. We had scissor lifts. We were cleaning things, painting things, all that kind of stuff. But it had been an interest of mine for a while to open. And I had been coaching since I got my L1 in 2012.
Hey, was that your
I,
full-time gig or were you working another job
no,
also?
I have another job.
Okay.
And so I had my, 9 to 5, and then I had been coaching at the gym for since I got my L1, so
Gotcha.
12 to the end of whatever that was, 15. And I had been like doing some of the programming and that kind of stuff, and I knew all the members. I was there a lot.
Mm.
And it just worked out really well for us to purchase the equipment and move, and we got all the members and coaches to help, and moved it all down the street and opened up and had a gym.
And you had that gym for a while, and I don't know if this is something sensitive or not, but what you eventually just decided to close it and maybe consider it again in the future?
Yeah, so COVID happened. That was tough on every gym and every business. And
Right.
for us particularly, it was a family thing. So me and my brother, my parents, and then our wives, my brother's wife, my wife, were coaching. My brother and my sister-in-law had their daughter in the end of 19. And so
Gotcha.
right as she was a super preemie, she was like 26 weeks or something.
Oh, wow.
And so like right as she was, she had to be in NICU forever. And so
Hmm.
right as she was about to come home, COVID hits. And so obviously priority number one is her. And so
Right.
they, didn't leave the house. My parents were helping, so they couldn't do anything. So the burden mostly fell on my wife and I.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
after, whatever that was when we were allowed to open up, we realized we really like hanging out with each other over COVID. Not that we didn't before, but it was just like I feel there were a lot of people that had to spend so much time together that they were like, this is kind of old.
Right.
And we were the opposite. Like we would go on walks with the dogs. It was great. And so we were just like, we didn't have a lot of time because we were just always coaching. You gotta do the 5 a.m. classes if somebody doesn't show
You're
or maybe you
hustling.
forget to, all that good stuff. And it was just a big drain. And we were like, you know what? Like we don't necessarily want to do this anymore.
Hmm.
And it
That's
just
a
so
fair
happened,
decision.
that one of the coaches we had was interested in maybe being a bigger part of the gym. And so we
Mm.
just kind of flip-flopped roles and we got out and he took our share of it and
Nice.
we just
That
kind
worked
of
out great.
out. And yeah, I mean there was no hard feelings about anybody. It was just like I'm done now. But I have a lot of thoughts about doing it again someday. I don't know if and when, but it's a fun thought. If nothing
That's
else, I'd like to get my L3 because I just think again, like I'm a CrossFit nerd. I love reading that stuff. I think I'd just be fun to take the test and see what happens.
yeah, yeah,
So
no harm there.
yeah.
And so, did you have a nice setup of gear at home when you stepped away from the affiliate to do the transition to the garage?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. We had kind of for holidays and things bought each other barbells and things, and we
Gotcha.
had some dumbbells. And then before COVID hit, as like things were coming down, we were like, you know what, this may affect us. And so we bought one of like the folding rogue rack things and
Nice.
put it up. And so that was the start of it. And then as we left the affiliate, I kind of bought some stuff and put it in our gym. And so we've got a pretty decent setup and it's grown as garage gyms tend to do. And so
And
we got some fun toys.
if you're running your own gym for a while, I'm going to make the bold assumption that you know what you're doing and you're so immersed in the journal and just, educated yourself so well that what made you not just do your own thing in the garage? What made you try to find something like Linchpin?
Um, I feel like I was always like kind of a sideline follower. Like
Mm.
my two favorite programs I've ever done were .com and then Lynch, just because they're simple. Like one of my favorite things about them is just like they make you do things that you wouldn't normally do. Like I'm not gonna do hollow rocks on my own. Are you kidding me?
Right.
I don't want to do that. But like we tried a couple other gyms. Like after we left, we were like, maybe we could go here because it's still nice to be part of a gym.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Community
walking four
matters.
steps out my door is just so much more convenient. Everything else, that gym was right down the street from us. It was like 7 to 10 minutes away, and everything else is 20 minutes plus. So it's just really hard to justify paying to go there and driving when I've got everything I basically need. I can't do rope climbs or muscle ups. Who cares? I'm
Hmm.
still gonna be pretty fit.
Yeah. Same, I'm
And
in the same situation, as a matter of fact.
yeah, and actually I can do them if I hang my rings in my tree. It's a little
Awesome.
sketchy, but it's Sometimes it's
There's
fun.
there's old school CrossFit for you right there. If you're hanging
Yeah.
rings in your tree, that's like tell me you're old school without telling me that you're old school right there. That's
Yeah.
pretty awesome. And do you same time every day working out? Are you a morning, midday, evening kind of guy? What works for you?
We're like the late evening, so I typically try to
Okay.
wait for my wife, and she works a little bit later. She's a much harder worker than I am, so she always stays a lot later. So we're usually like a 7:30 or later
Okay.
kind of deal. So it depends, but that's typically where we're at. So luckily for me, I get to see everybody's scores and see how bad things are going to be.
So you haven't done the 21:15:9 of the burpees and
Did it
pull-ups
last year.
last year,
I
yeah,
saw
but
my
not today.
score when that came up, and I remember it, and I am not looking forward to it again
I
because
know.
it was like I remember it, and I remember it tied like my all-time Fran PR, and obviously very Fran like.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those ones where like you get the butterflies in your stomach because you know it's gonna hurt,
Yes, sir.
like looking forward to doing it and also not looking forward to the aftermath.
I've got that same feeling today because it's looming. And I just, before I clicked on this interview with you, I was in the kitchen with my wife and I almost uttered, I was like, hey, because it usually doesn't work out for us to work out at the same time. We both get in when we can. And I was like, hey,
Yeah.
you want to work out at the same time today? Because I know it'll be a great push. I know that she'll beat me,
Yeah.
but I know it will be a great push. But then in my mind is like, it's already going to sting. Why make it sting more? So I didn't, I didn't say anything, but I might still, I don't know. I'm still rolling it around as to whether or not, like, I'm already going to set myself on fire. I just don't know if I need her to come out there and dump gasoline on me when I'm already on fire,
And
but
if
we'll
she's
see.
there, you know you can't give yourself that out of like, well, I'll just go a little bit slower.
Correct. Yep. Correct. Correct. And I might even try to throw on a Tempest match. We'll see.
Oh, there you go.
TBD in that, but that could be a good one, a good way to do it. Do you still, you mentioned your email, but I started doing these interviews like 2 years ago and then get sidetracked. I'm circling back to them. So some information's outdated.
Yeah.
Are you still training your parents?
Not anymore. They just my sister-in-law does kind of like a woman's only class that my mom really likes. So
Okay.
she's been going to that. And then my dad is just more of like a old time, like likes to go to the Planet Fitness and do his thing. And I'm just like, hey man, as long as you're working out, like I would rather you do this with me. I
100%.
just want you to move. That's all I care about.
100%. I mean, your parents are already light years. My father's passed away, but light years ahead of my parents. I can't get my mother to do anything. And even when my dad was alive and we were having conversations about it, just couldn't get him to do anything. So
Yeah,
quite frankly, if they were doing anything that was moving their body, I would consider that a win. Like,
yeah, absolutely. I at least have kind of the peace of mind of knowing that like I helped them with some stuff and like I taught them, the basics of squat, deadlift, press, and I at least know they know what they're doing for the most part. So
so yes, 100%. You can pay it forward to them. Let me let me maybe wrap up with this. You mentioned in the email that you and your wife are huge travelers
mhm.
and you love to travel. Is that just a passion, a hobby, vacation time well
A little
spent?
bit of all of it. She travels for work a lot now and she has for a while, but I don't know. She traveled a lot before we got married. I didn't do a lot. No, I had never been international before we got married. Uh,
Okay.
but then since we like our honeymoon was in South America,
Where'd you
we
go in South America?
we were in, oh God, I always forget the third country, but we were in Argentina, Chile, and it's right across from Argentina. And I can't remember what it is.
Chile's across from Argentina. I think you've got I'm gonna embarrass myself. Is it
I know
Bolivia's
it's
up
inside.
north?
I know that. I don't know, but
Ecuador,
I always want to
Peru.
say it's Honduras, and I know it's not Honduras.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so we were there for a honeymoon. Then we've been to Colombia once or twice.
Where'd you go in Colombia?
We were in Cartagena.
Okay, yeah, I know
Very nice
Cartagena.
place. I loved it so
Yeah.
much.
What brought you to Colombia? There's not a lot of Americans that go down to Colombia.
Yeah, it gets a bad rap. I don't really know. I think my wife mostly just like picks these places. So she had been there once for work,
Mm-hmm.
and then she was like, "You're gonna love it here." Like she was in Cartagena, she was in Bogota, and she just really liked it. And she's like, "I think you're gonna like it." I'm a big fan of South American food, uh,
Mm-hmm.
arepas, empanadas, all that good stuff. And so that was a big draw for me. And then just in general, I'm more of like a South American culture kind of person, laid back, kind of move slow. I like my siestas.
I love Central and South America. It's my
Um,
favorite
yeah.
geographical area in the entire world. And Colombia is actually one of my favorite countries. And
Oh, really?
Cartagena is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How much
that's
time did you spend there?
I went to Cartagena when I was in the military, so we were there for I mean at least a month, if not more. And then I've spent time in Bogota and Medellin uh,
Hmm.
in Colombia. And I mean Colombia's I absolutely adore Colombia. I think
It's so nice.
obviously there are places that you wouldn't want to just, haphazardly walk around.
Right.
I think it gets a terrible rap. Like I think it's villainized as being 100% just a terrible place to
Mm.
go. And
Right.
I found the people there to be so warm and friendly and hospitable and awesome that I think it's great.
Yeah. And like I said, we were in Chile, we were in Santiago. That was a wonderful place too. Did you make it that far?
Yeah, yeah, I spent some good time in Santiago.
It was a really cool place. Wish I could remember the other one, but then we're planning on going to Ireland, Scotland, and London for the
Nice.
rotational coming up. So that'll be a fun trip.
Oh, that's cool.
I think I sent my email too. One of the fun things that we liked was, I don't speak Spanish. She doesn't speak Spanish. I speak maybe a little bit to get around, but you go to these places, and specifically CrossFit gyms, and it's super cool that we can go there and not speak the language and still know what's going on, and people will still
100%.
help you. And that I don't feel like that happens in other societies or other, walks of life. These people were just there was always one person that could at least speak some English to us, but they'd always tell us, they tell you don't go here, don't go there. And as CrossFitters, we love food and coffee, and those are the best places to get recommendations. So that's kind
Amen.
of what we do whenever we travel. It's like before we get there, find the gym, at least the first one. If you like it, go back. If not, try the other ones. But they'll tell you what's what in the area, and it's like our favorite thing.
Yeah, I 100% I could not agree more. And I might see you over there in Scotland for the
Oh,
Rogue
cool.
Invitational. So we'll see. I might try to actually drag my wife over for that as well. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
That's gonna be
Set up,
fun.
Got to set up some childcare and make some things happen. But I think that's what's going to occur. So let's let's say, in parting, in closing, any recommendations or lessons learned? You've been in this game a long time, since 2010, looking back in the rearview mirror, things that maybe you wish you had known sooner, or any kind of advice like that to people?
I think one thing that's been stuck on my mind lately that I think applies to, everybody, whether you're starting or like you're in the game, is like you just gotta show up. Like you just got to
100%.
start and you got to show up. And even if it's just, if you're a home gym person or if you go to an affiliate and like you're maybe having a rough day or you've got kids that are or a job that are just wearing on you, is like put on your shoes, go out to the garage and just do something. And like you'll probably start doing the workout or doing something. And even if you just sit there for like 20 minutes on the bike and you're like,
Right.
it's not today, it's not going to happen. And like that's fine. But you can't not start. You just have to get the shoes on. You got to go outside. You got to get in the car, drive to the affiliate, sit in the parking lot, and then you're like, nah, not today. But in most cases, you'll probably go do something.
Mm-hmm.
I think just for anybody out there, like even for me sometimes, I know yesterday I wasn't looking forward to wall balls and thrusters and things. And I was like,
Mm-mm.
just go move and you'll be fine. You'll get there. And then your competitive juices will kick in or your discipline will kick in and you'll be okay.
Yep. Just put one foot in front of the other and
Yeah,
it'll probably happen.
absolutely.
Well, man, Scott, I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate you sharing your story. And of course, thanks for being a part of Linchpin.
Yeah, I love it so much. Thank
Well,
you for everything you do for us.
it's my pleasure, and enjoy the burpees and pull-ups.
Thank you so much.
Later.
Bye.